From Hong Kong, Chicago, and the city of Stoke-on-Trent, this is the Classic Lenses Podcast. Hello and welcome to episode 104. My name is Simon Forster and I really am joined this week by Johnny Sisson and Perry G. Hello, Johnny.
Well, hello, good morning all.
You made it.
I made it. My computer feels like it's limping here a little bit, but I think it'll be okay.
And you were also a little bit poorly last week, so
I was, yeah.
Join us, but it didn't quite happen, did it?
No, I was just not good last week, but a lot better today.
That's cool. Great to have you back, and hello,
Thank
Perry.
Hello.
Welcome back, and so you're welcome back. You were here last time anyway, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Okay, first off, because we've got a lot to get through today. So first off, I just want to say thank you to Ethan Moses for sharing this briefcase or hold-all or trunk of lenses with us last week. It was great having you on the show and just going through those lenses, and also letting you know what lens. I'm talking to you now, Ethan. Just letting you know what lenses you actually have, because you were a little bit uncertain of a few of them there. So glad we helped you out on that, Ethan. Okay, well, let's head.
Oh,
yes.
On that note, I got to issue two quick corrections from last week's episode, because after we finished recording, Ethan sent pictures of a bunch of his lenses that he talked about, and we spent a lot of time talking about the version 4 35 Summicron, but the one that he actually has is the version 3 from the picture. And also, I spent a good amount of time disagreeing with him on the degree of shittiness of the 92.8 Tele Elmerit thin, because he claimed to have the thin one, but no, he has the fat one, which is the good one. So that's why he liked that lens, because he doesn't have the crap one.
That's all good. Well, Perry, you've been very busy this week, including pod tarting elsewhere. So tell us a bit more about what you've been up to.
Oh, it's been a big week since we last recorded. Britain was still in the European Union, right? Trump was having his friendly little trial, and we were not in a zombie apocalypse in Hong Kong. And we now are in a zombie apocalypse in Hong Kong. So I have a new shooting subject, which has gone from riot police beating the crap out of protesters to just literally every single person in the city going around with a mask. And it is both ironic given the mask ban and very interesting photographically, because people's faces look really different when there's this big white thing blocking off the bottom half of it, But that aside, breaking news aside, I've been doing a couple things. I was on Sunny 16 last week, and if you haven't listened to that episode, we spent a good hour and a bit, much shorter than this podcast, talking about street photography, and getting beyond that question of how do I stop being afraid of people, which I find annoying because so many conversations start and end there. So thanks and shout outs to Graham and Aid for having me on. Rachel was actually there at the very, very beginning when we started recording, but she wasn't feeling that well, so she went and had an early night because they recorded a little bit later than usual, and the reason for that is because it was 5 a.m. in Hong Kong.
Well, it was. I've listened to the show, and it was a good listen. So as we pretty much would expect it to be fair. So if anybody hasn't listened to it, head over to Sunny 16 podcast, and do you know what show number it is?
187, I believe.
There you go. It's only last week's show anyway. I think they come out every Thursday, so it's still current as well.
That's correct. And thanks to you guys for sending in your wonderfully thought out questions.
Oh, it's a tradition, isn't it now?
It is. What made me laugh was Graham was slightly. I think Graham was in two minds whether to do our questions or not. But he did, so fair play to Graham, and then he decided, I've done enough of these questions, and there's one more question I'm not going to ask you, and it's got something to do with pixel peeping, and that was as much as he needed to say. And you knew exactly where that question was going, and gave the answer anyway.
Yep, that's right. And it was a really good conversation, because Aid is just starting to get into street photography. Like your questions aside, And that was a nice perspective to come at it from. Yeah, I won't give away any other spoilers. So aside from being on Sunny 16, I have been shooting over the Chinese New Year break, which has now been pretty much extended for another month in Hong Kong because we are under lockdown. Schools are shut until March 2nd. And basically, yeah, we're city shut down again. I was shooting with my Agfa Record 3 because I wanted a couple of rolls of black and white 6x9s so that I can eventually contact print them when I can find a red darkroom light for my bathroom. And those came out really well. I did for the first time what Cheyenne Morrison calls the big shot shuffle, where you preset the distance on the aperture and the rangefinder and just move yourself back and forth. And yeah, the images came out really nice. I shot pretty much all of them at around f11. So there was still quite a bit of nice shallow depth of field. And, you know, the thing with this Solinar lens is it's supposed to be the nicest one. And there were so many times when I just wanted to crank that thing wide open and take a few shots to see what it looked like. But thankfully, my common sense got the better of me because each time I was like, no, this is just going to look worse. Either I'm going to totally miss the focus or the lens is going to be soft, or even if it's sharp, the depth of field is going to be so shallow that what's the point, right? So f11, shallow depth of field, they came out great. I'm really happy with the results and the tonality. So I can't wait to actually try and contact print them. I just need a damn darkroom light.
You can't find a darkroom light in Hong Kong?
Well, I
even a party store will have a red light.
I haven't actually looked.
Okay.
You know, most of the shops here are closed over Chinese New Year. And I asked Mike Epstein where he got his from because he has an Intrepid enlarger at home and he's just been sort of messing around with it there. And he got his off eBay. But the darkroom that I go to in Hong Kong, they just use regular lights with like red cellophane taped all over them.
Yeah.
And the guy who runs that darkroom used to be head of quality control for Kodak here in Hong Kong. So if he says it's fine, then I trust him that it's fine. And it hasn't had any detrimental impact on the actual images. Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out if I can get away with just using my development chemicals because I don't want to buy special like paper developer. So I'm just looking into whether I can use, HC110, and it looks like that's totally fine, right?
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I know people have done it with Rodinol, but I'm not sure what HC110.
Yeah, I mean, it's got instructions for paper on the bottle. So
then you're good.
Yeah, I can't find any times online, so I'm gonna have to just experiment with it. Wait, no, what?
You don't need to.
Yeah, I don't need times.
Nah.
Yeah, okay, that's all good.
I mean, you could. It's helpful to have a baseline time, so that you can be consistent, but you can pretty much do it by inspection. I mean, it shouldn't be 10 minutes and it shouldn't be 30 seconds, somewhere in between.
Yeah, we're looking at like probably 2 minutes or so, right?
2 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, because the main thing I was looking online was what dilution people use it at. And it seems like people just use a standard 32:1 dilution for those who are using paper.
I'm just thinking that the standard time is, I would say 2 minutes is definitely on the long side, surely, for developing paper for your first part of the development. That sounds to me, when I've had 2 minute developments, that's because it's been old developer and old paper. I mean, I've had some things come through really, really quickly, which is my experience.
Well, I mean, I think the modern evil resin-coated multi-grade papers develop really fast, yeah.
Yeah, at the darkroom we go to, the owner premixes the chemicals for us, and it's about a 90-second development time.
Yeah, that's normal. That's normal.
Yeah, and I'm using Ilford multi-grade 4, so I'm just going to use that as a baseline.
I was going to say the other thing there is also just like how bright your enlarger is as well.
Well, I'm making contact prints, so...
Oh, of course, yeah. It's how bright your light source is then, even with your contact prints as well, because that will have an effect on it as well.
Definitely. But that's just going to be a case of trial and error.
Yeah.
So apart from that, I haven't done. I mean, I've been out shooting a bunch. I've been using my Canon 5L2 with that Ricoh GR lens, which the more I use that lens, it's my favorite handling lens, I think. But it looks better on digital than film, and that's really, really irritating me these days. And because when I shoot it on film, it just doesn't look that sharp, and then I test it on my digital cameras, and it looks totally fine. And I'm like, is this just because digital cameras make everything look sharper? Or is there something about this lens that just isn't singing with, either the films I'm using or the way I'm developing or whatnot? I don't know.
Right.
Well, that's just completely counterintuitive, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I was like, is there something wrong with my lens? But then I tried on digital and it looks totally fine. So I don't know. I get the sense with this lens that the subjects I shoot that are really close up look pretty good, but most of the time when I'm shooting a street, the subject's around 5 meters away, and it just doesn't seem like a great distance for that lens on film. I don't know.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
So it's and when you say using it on film, are you using this with a digital Leica or?
No, digital Leicas don't shoot film.
No, sorry. When you shoot digital with that lens, I mean, sorry.
Leica on my M240 and my Sony.
Yeah, because I mean the reason why I asked that question there was just in case there's something wrong with the focusing cam on it or something, and it isn't quite doing what it's meant to be doing. So it's just throwing the focus slightly off. Whereas on your Sony, you wouldn't notice it.
No. The focus is fine, and I'm shooting at like f8 to f11 for all the shots. So
it just has a different look, huh?
It does. I mean, I used to have the what's it called? The Leica 28 2.8 Elmarit M. And I didn't like that lens because it was too sharp, but so I know what a really sharp 28 millimeter looks like on film. And this lens just doesn't seem to do it all that much. Yeah.
Bizarre.
It is more testing required. I haven't figured out. I mean, I'm shooting Tri-X at 800, so it's not going to be super sharp anyway. But compared to the images I get off the Summicron, it's noticeably less defined. The tones are lovely, and the focus is fine. But hey, I don't know.
I don't believe this is the case, but I just wondered if it's similar to the issue that people sometimes have, and I don't think this is a settled debate or fact. How some lenses can't resolve the detail of certain sensors on a camera. So a lens can resolve, for instance, up to 18 megapixels, but you've got a 24 or 36 or 50 megapixel camera, and because it's not resolving to the ability of the sensor, it actually smudges the image a little bit rather than giving you extra clarity.
But that would be the other way around, right? Because what I'm getting is
but doing it on film.
I'm pretty sure Tri-X at 800 doesn't have the resolving power of a Sony A7R2.
Yeah. No, I know, but that's what I'm saying. I guess that's what I'm saying. I'm saying I'm using one thing to prove the exact opposite in some ways, but that's what it feels like it's doing. But it just seems odd.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe I'm just expecting too much from the lens because it's. I don't know. So I will continue. I mean, I love the combo, so I'll continue investigating and see if I can make this thing look the way that I want it to look. Yeah. But I was out shooting with my girlfriend the other day, and she was, of course, shooting the Konica Hexa RF with my 35 Summicron that she likes to hog. And she did something that we talked about on the Sunny 16, where Ada and I had this little discussion about how, in the city, the space is designed for people to move around it in a certain way. And so things will repeat themselves. A couple of weeks ago, we were at a ferry pier not too far from my place at around 1:30 p.m. And there was a shot that my girlfriend really wanted to get, but she didn't quite get that shot. So she dragged us back there again at approximately the same time of day, a little bit later. And this time around, she got the shot. So we went. It happened again. She was waiting for the ferry attendant to go and stand in a doorway where they then grab the rope from the ferry as it docks, so that they can then tie it to shore. So, sure enough, he stood in the exact same place. did the exact same thing, and she got the shot, and she got that shot featured on Best Vintage Lens today, which she's very happy about as well.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it just speaks to that fact of street photography that, you know, cities repeat themselves every single day. So if you miss a shot, or if you notice a particular kind of lighting that you find really striking, and either you're just not ready or you don't have the equipment that you want, just note the time of day and go back on a day with similar light, and it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
I was going to say, to be fair, that pretty much applies with landscape as well. I mean, you're talking about city shooting there, but it's effectively landscape in the city, isn't it? So you'd make sure that if you go to a location, you think this will be brilliant, but the sun needs to be over there rather than where it is at the moment. Then you make the note and you come back at the right time. It just tends to be that little bit more convenient if you're already living in the city rather than having to drive 20 miles to get to somewhere interesting.
Yeah, you're totally right, especially when it comes to lighting. I'm talking also about just people moving around in a specific way. That also tends to repeat itself. So, you know, if you're on your morning commute and you see people coming out of a subway in a particular way, it's going to happen again at that same time of day.
Yeah, I do that a lot. I feel like I take the same 12 shots over and over and over and over again in Chicago. Always like trying to get the exact right thing to happen. You know what I mean? Because it's somewhat predictable. I mean, there's a couple of places I go back to a lot. There's the Palmer House Hotel, which is about a block from Central Camera, and I'll go over there on my lunch all the time. And there's the guys who do they're not bellhops, but the guys that do the luggage and everything out front. Mm-hmm. They're always kind of doing the same sort of thing, and they're always fun to shoot. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you get into a rhythm of certain times of day, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because like for me, I'll often be out shooting, and then at around 4:30 p.m., the light is very sort of directional, right? So you get like long shadows, and the light starts to become kind of golden and glowy, and it'll make your lens flare if you're shooting backlit. So I love shooting black and white at those times. And then half an hour later, when the sun starts to dip below, or an hour later when the sun starts to dip below the horizon, then it's like, oh, it's still o'clock now. And then you got an hour to shoot that kind of blue twilight. It's really fun. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have been up to. And I think in the coming days and weeks, I'll just be out there photographing people with their masks on because, you know, living in interesting times.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's head over to Chicago because, Johnny, you've been up to quite radical things lately.
So, yeah, I actually did something I don't really get to ever do anymore, which is take pictures yesterday because it was sunny for the first time in, like, I'm not even kidding, for the first time in like a month, more than a month. It's just been gray every single day. So I actually had sun or filtered sun basically all day yesterday. So I rode around on my bike in the ridiculous gale force headwinds and took a couple rolls of film.
Have you got a basket just in front of your handlebars that you put your camera in?
Oh no, I had it in I had it in my bag on the back. On my bag I had my little lightweight
This isn't fitting the mental image I'm using at the moment. I'm just thinking about it as if like you're going around Amsterdam or something like that.
Oh, you're like I got a Wicked Witch of the West?
Yeah, or everybody's just...
like that kind of thing?
No, I was thinking about everybody's just like stopping and smiling as you ride past them and you're just like, you know, smiling and winking back at them.
Yeah, no. It's more like, let's see if we can ride this guy off the road. That's more what it's like in Chicago. Let's see if we can take this guy out with a taxi or an Uber. That's more what it's like in Chicago. Let's run into a giant pothole and die. That's more what it's like in Chicago on a bike.
It sounds like you guys have a similar kind of driver cyclist animosity as they have in Toronto.
Oh yeah, big time. I have literally been run off the road before. And crashed into a pile because people just want to with you. So, yes, it's the joys of biking in Chicago, which is why I have a U-lock handy, and I have removed people's side view mirrors with my U-lock. More than once. So, comes around, goes around. Anyway, so I had sun yesterday, and I got to shoot my two cameras that are my two new acquisitions for this year so far. And one being the FT2, which I've gushed about already. The camera I got from Santa. But I got another camera, guys, and I'm a little excited about it. So I packed up a bunch of equipment that I wasn't using and took it to the shop and traded it for a camera that I've wanted for quite a while. So, I
feel like we need a drum roll here.
Yeah, I don't even know how to get it. So we're having a Leica sale at the shop because we have we have a lot of Leicas right now. For whatever reason, all this stuff has been kind of coming in. We got an M6, we got an M4, we got an M4 II, we got an M2. We have 6 M3s. And so we just have all this stuff right now. It's really weird. So the boss put them on sale, and there was an M3 there that I've kind of had my eye on. Well, I've been kind of ignoring it because I'm I don't have money for that. But he put it on sale to a point where it's wow, that's a normal price. That's a real price. You know what I mean? Not a central camera Leica price. That's a legit good deal price. So we had an M3, 1955 M3. So it has no preview, self timer only. So it double stroke. So it's the legit old school Leica M3. And this particular camera, it's got some vulcanite chips here and there, which I think if it had sat on a shelf unused, it would still have vulcanite chips on it because that's just what these things do. But everything on it is incredibly clean. So the rangefinder patch doesn't have any dust in it. The rangefinder is not flary at all. It's just super clean. So I was dang, I need to get this thing. So I set it aside and I gathered up. I threw about 25 pounds of camera gear in my bag, and went in on Saturday and traded for it. And he was, my boss was sort of I don't want to say it was a gift because I gave him a lot of stuff for it, but I think he was just being really nice because I still owe him some more things in return value wise, for it, which I will take into work tomorrow. But so yeah, anyway, I brought home a Leica M3.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, and this is the particular version of this camera. The only Leica I've really kind of had a crush on big time have been the M2 and the original, kind of the original setup of the M3, which is the double stroke, no preview. I just like how clean it is. And I like things that are kind of the original, concept, right? And that's what this is. It's got the Buddha ears on the side and all that stuff. So yeah, and I had bought one of these about 3 years ago now, and there were some problems with it, so I returned it, and I've kind of wanted one ever since, and it was just an opportunity shouted in my face, so I went with it. And
awesome.
Yeah, and it didn't cost me anything out of pocket. It just it's stuff that I already had that I was willing to trade for. So.
That's the best way to get a Leica too, to convert a bunch of non-Leica things into a Leica rather than spending money on it.
That's what I felt. That's how I was feeling too. So, yeah, and I mean, I have to say, I mean, it thing just feels great, and I gotta say, this thing is it's 90% haptics. It's all hand feel because I don't need it. It does not substantially do more than other cameras that I have at this point, but it's just nice to use. and it's just something I've wanted to be able to have the ability to use for a long time, if that makes sense. So it doesn't take any better pictures than some of the other rangefinders I have. It's just a different platform for putting lenses on that feels nice. And it does. It feels really nice. This thing it feels amazing in the hand, and it handles beautifully. So there's a collector / shop owner here named David Chan, who's been featured on a number of YouTube videos, and he has so many Leicas, but the original double stroke he swears is the best and his favorite. Really? Huh.
Yeah, the double stroke M3. So yours is 1955, just like mine, but mine has the preview lever.
Okay.
So does that mean the first 3 letters of your serial number are in the 700,000s?
Let me slide the viewfinder off. Yeah, it's 752,166.
So that's proper early. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's proper, like within first calendar 12 months of production.
Nice.
So
what's a preview window?
No, the preview lever.
Lever, sorry.
You know the lever that you can preview the frame lines?
Oh, right. I just thought it was some kind of adjustment, so if it wasn't working correctly, you could move the lines. Well, there you go. That's all.
No, it's so that let's say let's say you have a 50 millimeter lens on the camera, and you want to see what in the case of an M3, you want to see what a 90 is going to look like, right? Yeah,
go on.
Yeah, you could hold the lever, and it will bring up the frame lines for the other lens, so you don't have to change lenses just to see what the view is going to look like with that lens.
Right, so what you're telling me is Leica back in the 1950s weren't just getting ready for the influx of bad lens adapters in the
no, they were, if you had let's say that you had a 50 millimeter lens and you had like a 90 f4 Elmar, you could think, hey, I think I'm going to take a portrait. Why don't I see what that would look like with that lens on? And then you could change lenses, but you wouldn't have to change lenses to see in the viewfinder what what you'd be seeing. You could do it without changing lenses. Yeah. So I don't know. It seems weird to me still. I mean, I kind of like, it's going to be obvious if you need to use one. Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, that's, I guess it makes sense.
I think that thing is properly useful on any other Leica, but it's pretty useless on the M3. Yeah. Because the 50 millimeter frame lines are always visible. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. If it right. Yeah, that's kind of I feel too.
I mean, Simon, your M2 has it, right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, but I've never used it.
I was gonna say, right? Yeah. You probably never have ever even used it. Yeah.
No.
Oh, I've used it recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, on my M4, I had the Biogon. No, not Biogon. What is that? The Biotar, the 51.4 Biotar.
Oh yeah.
And it was bringing up the wrong frame lines. So I would have to push the preview lever to the 50 millimeter frame lines to get the proper framing. So I just started using that thing on my M3 before I realized that it just had an LTM adapter screwed onto the back and it was the wrong one. So I just switched it out for the proper one and it's perfect now.
Okay. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. So anyway, I like how the M3s without the preview are a little less cluttered. There's, it's purely aesthetics, I like the double stroke. I've always liked the double stroke. There's just, I don't know. I like how it feels. It's fun.
There are a couple of cool things about the early ones as well. The double stroke, we were talking about this before the episode, before we started recording, right? Mm-hmm. I think that the M4 feels nicer than the M6, at least mine. And M2 feels nicer than my M4. And my M3 double stroke feels substantially better than my M2 as well. It's just glorious.
Wow.
Yeah. Interesting. And the early ones also, the window where the viewfinder is?
Yeah.
It's more of a circle. So you can kind of tell that it's an early one by obviously the serial number, but also by that. And then they tend to have two other features about them that are kind of unique, which is number one, there's usually a bit more of a bluish tint to the viewfinder, which gives you a bit more contrast with the rangefinder patch.
Right. That's true of this one. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the shutter speeds are marked in like under 250, it goes to 100 and then 50 and 25.
Right. It's the old school scale. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Rather than 125, 60, 30, and 15.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, which I like. I mean, so my second camera I ever bought in my life was a Rolleiflex 2.8C, which I bought in 1997, which was my upgrade from the camera I had since I was 15 years old, which was the Minolta X700. And I was like, I want to get a new camera. I want to get medium format. And that was my upgrade camera from my Minolta. So, and I like the C because it's from like 1953. And it also has that the old school progression of the apertures or the shutter speeds.
Oh yeah.
And I always thought like, even back then, I thought it would be cool to have an M3 from about the same era that had the same progression. Cause it's like, I don't know, there's something about the cameras, like right at that period from like 1952 to 55, 6, where a lot of like designs were starting to really get modern, if that makes sense. Like they were, it was like it's like an amazing era in camera design. And to me, like the 2.8C and the 2.8D, well, really the D is probably the last like really old school feeling Rolleiflex. And then the E and the F are, to me, have a substantially different feel to them. But the C and the D have a kind of an older school feel. And that's kind of why I always thought it would be neat to have a 2.8C Rolleiflex and a Leica M3, a really early one. Because there's a kind of a similar, I don't know, there's something kind of that feels related to them about, to me, about them. And part of it is just that they have that old school aperture or shutter progression. It feels slightly sort of from a different era. Does that make sense? I mean,
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause if you go even further back, a lot of folding cameras will go 100, 200, 400.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I like that because it makes doing the math for Sunny 16 easier.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so, I don't know. There's something that to me is very appealing about the fact that it's like one step less modern, And again, this is where I feel like I'm, to venture into almost collector land, is that I like it because of those features. Those features don't really do anything to make better pictures. So it's more just about the object, and that's okay. That's not a bad thing.
No, and they're so nicely made as well.
Yeah. And so the funny thing is, like on Saturday, I had been actually talking to a guy the day before. So I put this ad together at Central Camera, and I put it out on Facebook and Instagram and all that, with like all this list of like 50 things that are on sale, rangefinder wise. And this guy wrote me, and we had a long conversation, and he wanted to know like about the M3s, and we talked through them, and I tried to give him a little bit of detail on condition and everything. So he came up on Saturday. The next day he came up and bought an M3, and he bought a single stroke. No, wait, was it a double? I think it was also a double, but it had the preview lever, and it was a little bit later. But a similar camera, it's similar to this one. And we had a conversation about that. And like the thing that I find fascinating about cameras from this era, because I mean, that's 1955 is how long ago? 60 something years at this point, pushing 70 years. What other technology do we have in our lives that is entirely still usable and functional that was made 60 years ago that we just walk around and use? I don't really, I mean, unless you're like a watch collector and you're into like old watches or I'm trying to think what else. I mean,
vinyl records, maybe.
Yeah, or if you're a douchebag that drives around in like an old Porsche or something that's like from the 50s, cars to me are a different thing altogether. But do you know what I mean? Yeah, vinyl records, right? But I mean, they just lay there. They don't do anything. They just sit there and spin around.
And that's mostly
no moving parts. Yeah, they have no moving part. So, but for something that's like a mechanical object that still works 60 plus years later, to me that's really kind of mind-blowing, because the technology has advanced so far, right? But you can go out and make an image with this thing, and if somebody didn't know better or didn't understand, be able to see the difference between, let's say, film and digital or whatever, they might have been none the wiser to the fact that it is what it is, right? So I don't know. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so I find that very interesting and appealing on a lot of levels that really have nothing to do with making images. It's just like I don't know. It's something. It says something about life and time and I don't know. There's just a lot wrapped up in there, and that's what interests me about this particular camera. This one in particular, because we had 5 other M3s on the shelf. This was the cheapest. That was my other big factor.
Well,
it was the cheapest one, and I figured the boss would let it go easier because in his mind, he's an old school camera guy. It's the least desirable Leica. Is people consider the single strokes to be more desirable, so it's it's kind of like a less niche camera. So I figured I think I could talk to Boston to let me have this thing.
It's one of those things that speaks to the ethos of the 50s as well, where things were made to last.
Oh yeah, right.
It's not like the consumer electronics of today, where they've got planned obsolescence of 2 years or so.
Right.
These things, you were meant to buy them once and then get them repaired if necessary, but they would last you a lifetime.
Absolutely.
So David Chan, who I was mentioning earlier, he's of the same mentality. He just loves things from the 50s because they just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And this thing, I mean, I got to say, so cosmetically, the only condition issue I mentioned, there's a couple of vulcanite chips, and then somebody quite obviously had one of those fucking stupid Leica meters on the top. And I know that because it's got a little like scuff marks. On the front where the Leica script is, which is because they're useless. I don't even like how they look. I just feel like they get in the way. And then if you want to use if you want to like use that accessory shoe for anything else, you could take the meter out. And it's not like it just whipped the meter out. You have to turn the thing and slide it and wiggle it, which is why this thing is scratched on the top. Because somebody was sliding and wiggling it, and they, without fail, they marked up the top. I do not care about the marks. I'm just pointing out that I can tell it had a meter on it, because everything else in this camera is like friggin' like perfectly functional. So I'm usually suspicious of cameras that are really clean because they tend to have issues because they've been sitting unused, and actually Leicas are famous for that, especially the screw mount ones. But this one, actually, everything is fine. It's clearly it's been sitting, but it was well stored. So and
if it had a meter on top of it, it was clearly used. Yeah,
it was used, but not a whole lot, and it was Anyway, it's even cleaner than I would need it to be. I don't like have a big thing about it being about the perfection of the cosmetics on it, but it's just I'm more impressed that it's functionally just so good, because a lot of them that we get from this era have the shutter needs to be adjusted and there's issues with them, but anyway, this one's really good that way. It's just working like the day it was made.
So on the different versions of the M3, the one that I have, it's an 802 serial, and it has the Buddha ears, and it also has the old backplate. And I'm wondering, I read this once before, but I forgot. Do you know why they changed the Buddha ears to the round strap lugs, and B, the material of the film pressure plate from ceramic or glass to metal?
Yeah, I do know about that. I mean, I don't know about I'm assuming the Buddha ears are probably because the later type is more stable. I would guess. Maybe I'm wrong. Or maybe they were just, I don't know. Maybe it was cleaner. Maybe they're just cleaner.
Yeah. Could be something to do with the internals.
Yeah, right. And I do know about the glass though. And I'm pretty sure I was looking at this one. I'm pretty sure has the glass pressure plate. I know they changed that because of the static discharge thing. Right. Like, you can actually get essentially from winding it, you can get a static electrical discharge, and it leaves literally like looks like a little lightning bolt streak on the film, which actually I've seen it. If you've ever seen an image of that, it looks totally cool, but it's not something you probably want on every photo. I can't imagine it actually happen very often, but
I've never seen that on anything on my
M3. I would actually like to try to make it happen, but I rub it
on your cat first.
Yeah, exactly. Take a picture of your cat and then have the lightning bolt. But no, I mean, I do know that was the impetus behind why it was changed.
Cool. Yeah. And of course, you have the wonderful long base length.
I do.
Extra focusing accuracy.
The effective base length on this, it means that every picture I ever take will be in focus because that's how that works. You get the camera with the longest base length, and it's gonna be perfectly in focus.
You can shoot bokeh.
Yeah.
So the one lens that I know you have, or I think you still have, which I think balances beautifully and handles beautifully on the M3, is that top core 5 centimeter.
Oh yeah.
F2.
Yeah, that's actually the lens I was gonna throw on here and give a try with. I've been using it with the 35 f2 Canon. And I have so I've had for a long time the Leica 35 viewfinder, which is a nice finder. I actually like the Voigtlanders better. I think they're a little bit brighter, and I just like them better. But I don't know. It's original to the camera. It's like from the same. It just looks right. So I have it on there because it looks right. Again, it just has nothing to really do it. Well, partially usability, but it's like another rectangular window on the front. It just looks like it belongs on the camera, and the finish is the same, and blah blah blah. So, but yeah, I was gonna pop the top core on there because it does seem like it would be a great fit for the camera.
Yeah, it balances perfectly. It looks really nice, and also the smoothness of the focus tab and focus ring matches the smoothness of the M3 Film Advance. So
you're right. That makes sense, Perry. Yeah, it does.
It feels on my M3. It's so nice.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, well, that'll be the next lens to go on. So anyway, that's my big news. I got the Leica M3 that I've been wanting for a long time, and I have paired up. Yesterday, I was shooting the FT2 and the M3, and that was just about perfection. If I could have fit my Rolly 2.8C in the bag, also, that would have been like the ultimate threesome. And maybe I'll do that at some point, but I don't know. That's too many things to fiddle around with. Two's enough. So that would be a great trio.
Yeah, threesomes can be fun.
So they say, Perry.
I wouldn't know either.
Well, let's move things on, shall we?
Sure.
And what we'll do, I'll catch up on a few things I've been up to. Actually, I've only really been up to one thing, but I've got something to talk about that sort of carries on from where we left off a couple of weeks ago. My main activity last week for classic lenses wise was I did a talk at my local camera club, or rather the camera club that I go to, and that's not the same as the darkroom club that I go to. So this is mainly a digital based club with a few people that shoot a little bit of film. And I did I sort of redid the talk that I gave about 2.5 years ago, and that with a few extra updated photographs thrown in there, but that went well. But what I also did this time, instead of continuing to talk about different lenses and things, I made the second half about shooting on film and a little bit my journey into film, which was also quite interesting to do that, because there's quite a big difference between my knowledge base really with adapting lenses and shooting film, and when you start to talk about the subject, whatever the subject is, if you're comfortable with the subject, then it can be very, very free, and you can talk at length and be very comfortable with it. And I was surprised that film I was okay when I got going, but actually to thinking about what am I actually going to talk about with film was a little bit tougher. And this comes back to a wider discussion piece that I've been having with myself, and I've also had a little chat to Hamish about this, and I've just been going around in circles with it. And actually, I've also spoke to Graham of Graham Jago, the Sunny 16 podcast, on the same subject. And this is a case that I find that the standard of my photography, and I've spoke about this on a few occasions, but the standard of my photography when I shoot digital is generally higher than when I shoot film. And I'm trying to do this when I talk about higher. I'm trying to be objective in the standard of the photographs that I produce. And I've been thinking, so why is that? And this is that dilemma that you can go around in all different directions. That's exactly where I am at the moment. If you remember, I was talking about using that Industar lens a couple of weeks ago and taking those pictures in the fog. And I took 3 good photographs, certainly 2 very solidly good, strong digital photographs with an Industar 50mm f3.5 lens, which I had no joy at all in using. It was just, it's a lens, it does a job, but it's and that's it. You know, where's the fun in that? And I delivered 3 good photos out of that experience, and then I put the Petzval on, and I loved every minute of it. And I probably delivered 1 half decent photo, and that's as good as it got. And yeah, so it's a case of, I'm thinking, well, sometimes there's that thing about, well, if you're in a good mood, a good photographic mood, you take good photographs. Well, that completely it was destroyed by my experience there, because I did not enjoy using the Industar, and I loved using the Petzval, yet the Industar gave me the better photographs. So that's one dilemma that came along, and I'm struggling to square that one.
Wait. So hold on. Yeah, that's really interesting to me, because I have a theory here to explain this. Because for me, it's the other way around generally. I think I make better photographs when I'm shooting film. But one of the things here is you said you shot 3 images with the Industar, and that's it?
I think I shot a few, but I mean, I didn't take many photos, but there were 3 images that I took with it. I'm not sure if actually it might be 2, but there were 2 images certainly that I took with the Industar, which were definitely the best shots of the day.
So yeah, part of it is definitely going to be a mentality thing, but I think you also need to look at it as a percentage, like a keeper ratio, right? Because if I'm not mistaken, you are very slow in working your way through a roll of film. Yeah. Right? And then when you look at the quality of images shot by digital, would I be right to assume that you are essentially ignoring the thousands of shots that are just throwaways or dicking around shots?
No, because I do take more shots with digital. There's no two. I'm freer with digital, but I'm not. I've always had a bit of a film mindset, so I tend not to take the picture if I don't think it's going to be right. Or I might take the picture and see what happens. Well, generally speaking, I have a similar kind of mindset. So, in terms of actually number of pictures taken, although there's clearly something different again, because I'm even more particular. I'm over particular with film.
So do you often get that feeling that you've missed shots because you've been reticent to press the shutter?
Not specifically, but I think the likelihood would be that I probably have.
Okay, no, I'm just wondering what your results would be like if you shot film the way that you shoot digital, apart from a bigger dent on your wallet.
It's hard to say. I think, and this, well, the thing is, there's somewhere I'm going with this train of thought, so I don't really want to jump into that one at the moment.
Okay, go ahead.
But I might well just do that now, because the next part I was thinking, well, okay, so the first part is, well, there's two parts I've just said there. One is I tend to take better films digitally than I do on film, although those two shots, I think if I'd actually taken those on film, I think they would have actually added something to it. And they certainly could have been taken on film. There's no two ways about it. They could have been film shots. And I think the reason why I didn't shoot film was because I was going into a bit of unknown, and I wasn't sure, well, what's the right camera, what's the right film, and all of this kind of stuff, where you go out with digital and you've got so much more flexibility. So that happened. And I can't remember what the second point. Oh, that was it. So I was thinking about, well, is this got something to do with familiarity? And because I'm very, very comfortable using my digital camera, my Sony. I'm very, very happy with that. It works exactly how I wanted. I don't have to think about it. I've owned the thing for 5 years, and I don't use many functions on it, and I know exactly how to get to any of the functions I do want to without taking my eye away from the shot. So that's the ideal way to use a camera, I think, in most people's opinion, I would say.
Yeah.
And so I'm there thinking, well, film, I use so many different cameras, and is it a case that I'm just not familiarizing myself with my equipment, and I need to listen to myself and everybody else who's saying, well, you need to actually just be more focused on the equipment that you use. Just stick to one camera if you can, and then just a couple of lenses or whatever. And people get incredible results. The best known historical photographers of our times, they've used just one or two cameras and a couple of lenses and things like that. That's a very common thing. And so that makes huge amount of sense. So be familiar with your equipment. And that's my problem with film. It'd be very easy for me to say that, except I've just had my roll of film back from my trip to Edinburgh, and I've also got some pictures for Liverpool as well, a walk around to Liverpool. So this is just a single roll of film, of portrait film, and it was taken with the camera that Jeremy North lent to me, his Contax G2, which was a kit which had every prime lens between 21mm all the way up to 90mm. And I used most of those. I think the exception, I didn't use the 35. When we've talked about that, why I didn't use the 35, because it doesn't make sense when you've got a 45. And I've had the pictures back, and almost every shot on that roll is a decent photograph in some way. And this is using a camera that lots of people deride, especially a lot of the Leica folks out there. Because this is an autofocus rangefinder camera, and I'm a Contax fanboy, I've got to admit that, but I've never used a Contax G2 before, and I just felt that it was right, and I was able to take exactly the photographs that I expected to take, and they came out in exactly the way I expected them to. So, and that's with a camera I'd never used before, and I say the majority of the shots on that roll were half decent. So what gives?
Did you find that it kind of melted into your hands and mind? Like that effect you talk about with messing around with random film cameras and having to familiarize yourself with all the different controls and stuff. Was that the case with the G2, or did it click right away?
Well, there were plenty of things I got wrong with it, but I ended up taking double exposures by accident. So no, it was. I didn't explore the camera when I got a hold of it. I thought, okay, well, that's the setting for that. That's the setting for that, and I can work out how to do a manual override on the focus, which on the G2 is far better than with the G1. The ability to manually focus, and actually, I'm having a Contax RX camera. That uses a similar kind of focusing system, because the RX, although it's a manual focus lens camera, it's got effectively a digital rangefinder on it, and the same focusing system comes into play with the G2. So I was familiar with the way it manually focuses, and where some people have a difficulty with manually focusing a G2 or especially a G1, I didn't have any problem at all. In fact, I was probably happier manually focusing than I was using the autofocus on it. Not that that was a particular problem either. So no, I didn't have an intimate understanding of the camera, and I used the very basic functions of it.
But it sounds like you are hardwired to find Contax cameras very intuitive.
It could be. I mean, I've got to say, I really, really wanted to like the camera. There's no two ways about it. Going into this, I went into it with a very, very positive mental attitude. No two ways about it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't explain everything, because behind me I've got a Kodak medalist with a roll of portrait that you sent to me, and it's still in there, and I hate using it. And I really so wanted to like using that camera, but it's horrible. I'm sorry, I just feel really bad for saying it. And it's got, one of these amazing lenses, which is, a legendary lens. I'm just there thinking, why can't they just rip this thing out and put it onto a digital camera and make me happy?
That's awesome. Well, the photos are great, Simon. I mean, it's like you've got a roll. You have like an entire roll of keepers, and that's a really cool thing. And I mean, this is. You've always had a thing for this camera, so I think that there is something to be said for the fact that you feel really good about using that camera, and you just get in the zone with something. But I mean, that camera, that's what it's meant to do, man, right? I mean, it's meant to like nail exposure, and it's meant to nail the focus most of the time, right? And I think it's more of a user thing, it seems like, with those than a camera thing, the focus stuff. So you got the focus, so then it's just you're composing and getting in the right place and just wanting to really take pictures, and things seem to turn up when you really want to take pictures. Mm-hmm. So hey man, I think that's amazing. I think it's great that you had such a good experience with it.
The downside is I had to give it back.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Thank you, Jeremy. Though I really appreciated using that. It was a great experience. The other thing, of course, I've only used the camera in two places. One is in the old town of Edinburgh, which is just a beautiful place to walk around and take photographs in a urban environment.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second place I went to was Liverpool. Again, a great place to walk around with the camera and just take pictures of stuff. So that helps too, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes you just find a camera that inspires you. I think you have to get one now. That's the problem.
well, this is the thing. I mean, you just been going on and on and on about those Leica cameras there, and I mean, I've got my M2, and I could just sell my M2, which I hardly use, and I don't get a great deal of joy using, and get a G2. Get a G2, but there's a few things that stop me. One part of me says I really haven't got my head around using the Leica, and has produced some good images, which I'm really, really pleased about. Yeah. So it's clearly a good camera, and the problem is with me. The other part is we've talked about this before, it just feels great. It's just a beautiful piece of equipment, and I just don't believe you how both you guys say that the M3 has got a better winder than the M2. It's just clearly not possible. So in fact, actually, when I did my talk at the Camera Club, and at the end of it, I invited people to come up, and because I took a load of gear with me as well, so people can touch and feel cameras and lenses and things like that. And one of them was my M2, and I'd just been talking about the winder on that. I described it to him as pure sex, and which that made a few people wanted to know exactly what pure sex felt like in a camera, and handed it over, and a few people goes, "Oh yeah, I see what you mean," So it went down well. But and I've sort of lost where I'm going. But one of the things is though it's a great camera. It works well and all of those things. And I'm just not in the right headspace to use it properly, and that may well change. It's a camera that if I sell it, I'll probably never get another one. And I like to actually have it. It's a bit like owning a 1.2 lens. It's one of those things you almost feel like you've got to have one. But the other part is a G2 is an expensive camera. Again, you can pay £500 plus and go into how many hundreds of dollars or whatever, and it can break tomorrow and never work again, and have no hope of being fixed. And that scares me. It really, really scares me. And I know that this M2, which I don't use enough and don't appreciate, it's fixable, and it's going to be fixable for a very long time. And I think that really stops me from selling that camera and swapping it for a G2, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely true, because electronic cameras, I think they make me nervous in exactly the same way. So the only ones that I have are the ones that I shoot a ton, because I know that if they do die, at least I didn't buy it and have it just sitting around there. You really got to know that you're going to use the crap out of it and kind of get your money's worth, so to speak, for if and when it does eventually zonk out because of the electronics.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I've I am a Contax fanboy. I love my two Contax SLR cameras, my RX and my AX, and I generally deliver when I go out and take pictures with those as well. But
they're electronic too, right?
Oh, very much so, completely. But they don't. The entry fee to getting into them, is far less. The Contax SLR camera is a good one. Is far less than any G2. Doesn't even including the AX, which is the most complex one of the lot. It's still far less than the G2 is. So I feel like that entry cost is such that I could justify that breaking and dying, whereas the cost for a G2 is just too much.
Yeah, that's fair.
So Simon, there is this other camera they make called the G1.
No.
Oh, that's a 180 turn.
Yeah, no. It's I actually still have Jeremy's G1 here, because I should have given it back to him when and it wasn't a case I was deliberately held on to it, because it had a problem, and I got it. My mum fixed it for him, which was great news. So it just proves you can sometimes fix things with a Contax G camera. Although that said, that this was more to do with a problem with the film that had literally bonded itself to the inside of the camera, so it wouldn't wind on. So it was just a cleaning job to get that one up. But I had to play with it, and this is after using the G2, and for me there's just no comparison. It's chalk and cheese. It's night and day, the difference between the two cameras, even though the form factor is very, very similar. The G1 just feels clunky compared to the G2, plus the manual focusing method on the G2 for me is intuitive, where it uses a different system. There's a dial that you just turn the dial and it effectively focuses the camera, and it just doesn't work anywhere near as sweetly on the G1, which is the reason why they did it, because the G1 is a very clunky method for manually focusing, and the G2 is far better. I mean, plenty of the rangefinder people do not like the G2 focus either. Well, that's fine. We all like different things, and the G2 just works for me, and I'll be very happy to use it all the time.
Yeah, hey.
But not a G1.
If it works, it works. We all have our things, right?
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think if you love that camera, then make it happen, Simon.
I'll just wait.
I'll
wait for a cheap one to come along.
Yeah.
We'll see. If you wait long enough, it happens. Although I have been waiting for 4 years.
I was gonna say there are some that would be like me. I'm like, I'm just gonna wait till a cheap X-Man comes along.
Yeah.
It's like there are certain cameras that I just don't think are going to come back to reality. And the G2 is not on that scale is still terrible, but it's pretty damn bad. It's not going to get any better. But you're right though. You never know. I mean, things do come along. It's just, I think it's one of those things where you have to hope you find it, you stumble upon it in person, because you're not going to find it like online. You know what I mean?
No, and I'm absolutely resigned to that. So and that's fine. And and I've got 2 lenses there waiting to be used with it, which I've owned for quite some time now. My 45 and my 90. But now having used the 21, which is spectacular. I mean, I loved using that with the external rangefinder, which really surprised me, because I've never really used. I've used external rangefinders. I've never really been the fan. So I was thinking, well, stick one of these on a G2, and I've been thinking that's just can't be good. And it was great. I really, really enjoyed the experience of doing it that way. I didn't miss being the less parallaxed version of that you were going to get, and I also really enjoyed using the 28mm lens as well. Which, seeing that none of us here are particularly fans of 28mm, it just worked really well.
Why do you always say that? I like 28mm. It's Johnny and KARL and you that had issues with it.
Yeah, well, there you go. that's you're still outnumbered. It's 3-1 on that one.
Yeah, but come on, that 28 on that for that system is really nice. It's really nice.
So nice.
Exactly. I had no. It was perfect for what I was using it for. Yeah. It was my second most used lens.
I think 28, like that's the thing. It's so It's so dependent on environment. Like there are some environments where it just works. It just works so well. I mean, in those shots of Edinburgh, I mean, it was just like the perfect focal length.
Yeah.
It's like this thing with the width of the streets and the height of the build. There's like some math formula in there where 28s are perfect, but it's like how wide are the streets, how far away are the buildings, how tall are the buildings, you know what I mean? There's just like this thing where it works. It's like Gary Winogrand with a 28. It's like the perfect lens for Manhattan.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, with 35, which I shoot 90% of the time, there are times when I feel, I wish this were a little longer. I never feel like, I wish this were a little bit. Sorry, I wish it were wider. I never feel like I wish it were longer. But with 28, when I'm shooting 28, it's perfect. If more of my cameras had the frame lines, or if more of my cameras felt as good as the 5L2 with the external 28 finder, I'd be all over that focal length, man. It's so nice.
Yeah.
Shout outs to 28mm. It doesn't get the love it deserves. But the other thing too is like 28mm lenses. Most of the compact ones are f2.8, just like the one on your Contax G system. Whereas 28mm f2 lenses, for some reason, are like obnoxiously huge. Whereas 35 f2 lenses, at least for most rangefinders, are super compact. And I don't know why that is, but it's annoying, right? Like if you want LTM or Leica, the f2 28mm, like the Voigtlander or the Leicas, are huge.
Yeah, they're jumbo. Yeah,
I think that's largely down to the optical design having to.
Exactly.
They've got to do more work to start off with to get the light through to the film plane, having dragged it in from the corners, and so it's got to appreciably more to get more light through it at the same time as well, isn't it? I was looking at. I've actually got an option, and I can't believe I'm actually still thinking about this. I've got an option on a 28mm f2. Minolta lens, and I'm strangely attracted to it, and I can't quite. I don't know what it is, but it's a big thing. It is a big lens, but there's something to be said about using that lens wide open with that kind of perspective as well. It's quite an interesting look.
I just like the extra shutter speed it gets you when the light is a little lower. Because 28, you can shoot at 1/30th at f2. That's like a low light beast right there.
Yeah, that's a good point. And when I haven't done it for a while. When I've gone around the city at night, and 28mm, as we were just talking about earlier, 28mm round where I live works extremely well. It just seems to be the right focal length, and so doing that with an f2, that sounds quite attractive. That does.
Yeah, and when you have an external finder, if you're using one, I guess you wouldn't with a 28, but with a 21, there's something to be said for separating the framing from the focusing window.
Yeah.
Because I find when I shoot with an external finder, my framing is a little bit better. Because Leicas encourage you to put stuff in the middle, and you have to take that extra disciplined step of like properly reframing after you've focused. Whereas if you are, you focus in one movement and then you trust that your focus is in roughly the right place and you just focus entirely on framing, I think I get on average better results when I shoot that way.
I think we talked about this at one point earlier in the week, because I was saying, I need to get a 40 millimeter viewfinder to put on my my Rolly rangefinder with 40 millimeter frame lines, because I enjoy using external finders so much more with a range. I mean, I just like to use the focusing patch for focusing and then pop my eye up to the much big. I mean, any external viewfinder is bigger and better. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I just feel like that my framing is better when I use that. It's like
it's like when you're shooting digital cameras and you separate the the back button focus from the half shutter press.
Yeah.
It's like the more you separate the individual functions of shooting, the more you focus on each one. Like step by step.
Yeah. Huh.
And that's also one of the beauties of using old lenses on digital cameras, in particular mirrorless, is that you see the focus of the whole picture far better than you do on a DSLR.
Right.
And you compose and focus at the same time rather than there's being two separate actions, which you tend to do with an autofocus camera. At least I do, at least anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, the other interesting thing to me, Simon, is you're one of the only people I know who is into the Contax G system for the cameras and not just the lenses. Because you've been gushing about the G2 when, those lenses are freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's one of those things that go hand in hand. And the reason why I don't talk too much about the lenses is because when you adapt them, they're a pain in the arse.
That is true, unless you convert them to M mount.
Well, yeah. I like. So that doesn't appeal to me at all. It's a bit weird. I think I'd just rather just use whatever lenses, whatever LTMs or M mount lenses on a rangefinder rather than bring one of those across. I'd far prefer to adapt them to Sony than I would actually wanting to put them onto a film Leica.
That's funny because the 90 millimeter Contax G lens and the 21 millimeter, plus the 35 I have, but specifically those two, I think if I could get those converted to M mount, they would be my favorite lenses in those focal lengths. Because optically and size wise, like the ZM-2128 is huge compared to the Contax G. I don't know what they did or why they can't just remake that, but it's huge. And then the 90 millimeter sonar, it optically is just stunning, And then in ZM, there's the 85 f4, which is a stop slower. So those lenses are pretty unique, man. They're so nice.
Well, I just wonder, with the case of the 21 at least, is it? Have you actually seen any that are being converted to M mount?
Yeah. Miyazaki-san does them. You can buy them online. MS Optic converted.
I was just wondering if there was just a problem fitting the cam to the focusing method.
It's totally fine, and it's substantially smaller than the ZM or the Leica 2128.
I mean, that just comes to another point. And I've mentioned this before. I mean, I was using those lenses, and I was thinking, these are beautiful lenses. And of course, you don't know that until you've seen the pictures. And because I certainly got that feeling when I was using the 21. I was thinking, these pictures are going to be great. I don't know that. I'm just looking through an external viewfinder. It's not looking through the lens at all. But you just get this feeling that they would be good, and they absolutely were. Sharp as you like. Super contrast too.
Yeah.
So all good.
Yeah.
All good.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Let's. How are we doing for time? Yes, we've been going on for a bit. We've got quite a few emails, I'm thinking, because we haven't done any for a couple of weeks. So should we rattle through a few of those, Johnny?
Yeah, we can do that. I am going to run off and get some liquid to have while I do that. So We'll be right back, folks. And you won't even know we were gone. All right, I'll be right back. All right, you guys ready?
Yeah.
There is sunlight pouring through my windows, and it's killing me. So we need to get through these because I could actually go out and maybe shoot some more film today, which would be incredible.
Let's do it.
All right. All right, well, we're back. We're going to read some emails quickly because it's sunny, and I want to go shoot pictures. So we're going to start with Paul Friday, subject, Angle of the Dangle, who wrote us on the 22nd of January.
What is this email about?
I don't know. We're about to find out. Paul says, now then, first off, the recurring subject of perspective. Get a copy of Randall Munroe's book, How to Turn, to chapter 21, How to Take a Selfie. This may be the explanation that works. And another thing, why do we all describe lenses by their focal length and not their angle of view? It's an angle of view we choose them for and that we use. As Randall points out above, a full rainbow covers an 83-degree field of view. Selecting the right lens would be easy if you knew what angle they each covered. And just to make things easier in a way, it would be even more convenient to use the military idea of mils instead of degrees. Using mils means that you can easily select the right lens to cover an object of a certain size at a known distance. Think perhaps of a 3-meter long car you want full frame at 40 meters distance. Simples, 75 mils angle of view. That the sums are easily enough to do in your head. Okay, class, discuss. Cheers. I have no idea what the hell he's talking about.
What the hell? How the hell can a full rainbow cover 83-degree field of view? Doesn't it depend on how far you are from the rainbow?
Yeah, I would think.
Right? Like that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but rainbows are funny things, though, aren't they? So you get closer.
Well, there's the title of today's podcast. Can we just stop now? Because Simon has again come up with a perfect title.
Yeah, we're not going to have this conversation. Although I will say, as far as arbitrary descriptions go, focal length is fine because we all get what that means. The aperture numbering is a really weird system when you think about it, right? Because it's a geometric relationship, and so the numbers you just kind of remember them, right? And they double every 2 stops because it's like the square relationship, but it makes no sense. When you try to explain to someone who's just getting into photography what the numbers mean, like aperture is the one where they're like, "Why the hell is it f5.6?" Right?
Yeah, well, it's the other part is like when you're saying and the you make the aperture open up wider, yet the number gets smaller.
I mean, it makes total sense if you know what it means, because it's expressing a ratio of the focal length to the diameter. But like, why you express that in the practical application is, when they used to use like exposure values or exposure indexes,
right?
I think they used to have those numbers because they're just much easier to understand for a newcomer to photography than like, f1.4 to f2 is 1 stop, but then f11 to f16 is also 1 stop,
right?
And here's why. Let me draw you a circle with some trigonometry.
This is just like deja vu for me, because I was actually walking the dog this morning and there was a rainbow. And I was
and the dog asked you about apertures?
Not quite, but I was thinking, I'm getting closer to this rainbow, but am I actually getting closer to this rainbow?
So wait, you were looking at your dog's aperture, or you were looking at the rainbow?
No. Although he does tend to walk in front of me, but no.
What would you call that? About a 5.6?
Oh, hopefully it's like F22 at least.
Where'd you go from there? And the other part was I was thinking about aperture sizes and the way that we actually express them, and how it's just really counterintuitive when you have that discussion with when you're trying to explain it to people. So weird. I don't know what the next part of that journey is going to come into the next email. I don't know. But,
this is interesting what he's saying here, and I think if someone was coming to this subject as a blank slate, this line of thinking would make perfect sense. Mm-hmm. But for me, having done it and wrap my head around understanding what how focal length of a certain lens relates to angle of view, and just knowing intuitively what a 28 versus a 50 versus right. I mean, it's like, to me, this to try to wrap that in some sort of equations would actually be way more difficult.
Exactly, because it is in many ways much more intuitive to think, all right. 35 millimeter is our reference point, right? And so whatever focal length, whatever angles of view different focal lengths yield on 35 millimeter, because it's by far the most commonly used film size and now sensor size. Well, that might not be true, that latter part, but you know what I mean. Then use that as the reference point, and then just go from there.
Yeah.
So it's arbitrary, but not random.
Right. Exactly.
Well, and when I use large format, I've got a few different lenses, and I do the maths in my head. Whereas with on full frame, I know what I'm going. If I need a 85 millimeter lens, it's because I know I need an 85 millimeter lens for the shot I'm trying to achieve, and I can see that, and I get it right every single time. But when it comes to large format, where if I want a 28 millimeter point of view, I'm thinking, well, that's a 90 millimeter. So I'm still thinking in 35 millimeter, and then I have to do the maths to take it into large format.
Right.
Yeah. The thing that drives me crazy is when someone asks me what the 35 millimeter equivalent is for a 6x6 lens. That's always where I'm just like, I have to give you the long answer. I can't just give you a number.
Yeah, because, and that is the part of that, and you could argue that the field of view would apply better in some respects, but because the actual form, the shape and format of the sensor or film size matters in terms of the focal length and how that converts to angle of view, and your angle of view is always going to be consistent. I assume, when you think about it, it's always going to be consistent. That is the angle of view that you see with that lens on this film. So therefore, that's all you need to know. So it does make some sense, but I guess we're just hardwired the other way, and it's just too late to change. I don't know.
And that would make no sense. Like if I'm shooting the X-Pan, that number would just be meaningless without just entirely referencing it against the format.
What, the angle of view?
Yeah.
Well, no, I think it's got legs, but we just don't think that way, because ultimately, this is the beauty of it. An X-Pan lens with a 100-degree angle of view would be a 100-degree angle of view lens, whatever that is, irrespective of what it is in millimeters, and the same would then apply with the 6x6 lens.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean. I think you're right. Yeah. Okay, I stand corrected. But yeah, we just don't think that way.
No, we just don't think that. Okay. Moving on. Paul Friday on a Monday. Thank you very much. Paul Friday on a Monday. Moving on to name. Jorge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jorge Grillo. Maybe. But anyway, he says hello. Dear Simon, Perry, and Johnny, greetings from San Diego. I became a listener of your podcast late in 2019, and I am addicted. The 1.5 hours or so of showtime gives me something fun to listen to for 2 days worth of commute, and I'm always looking forward to the following week's episode, so thank you. I have yet to watch the 100th episode. I usually don't have that much time to sit in front of the tube. That's okay. Just watch it in your car on the commute. I should also say that I absolutely hate you. You've given me so much gas that I went ahead and splurged on a Fuji X-T1.
TX1.
Oh, TX1. Holy crap. It's holy.
Nice.
Yeah. All that panorama talking. It's a beautiful camera, and I'm enjoying it very much. I'm always looking for a challenge, and composing in panorama format is not trivial. I've been mostly a Nikon user. I have currently a Nikon Z7 that I bought mostly. Yeah, you're welcome. That I bought mostly for its manual focusing aids, an FE2, an FM3A, and also an Olympus OM1. Love all of them for different reasons.
Was that an FE to you? Did you just say that?
FE2.
Oh, right, something like an FE to you.
An FE2. Love them all for different reasons. I do not own any autofocus or Z-mount lenses at the moment. I use a Nikkor 28mm f2.8 and Noct 58mm f1.2. I know a lot of gas there, and also the 105 2.5 all AIS. I also have a Jupiter 9 85mm f2 and f mount. That I like quite a bit. The Oli comes with the 50mm 1.8, does a good job, but I've been reading about the 24mm f2 for a while now. I love these lenses. I feel that they impart a character to the images that modern surgical lenses cannot compete with. The Noct 58 f1.2 is my favorite and what I use the most. Comments and suggestions for other lenses are welcome. I have also been nourishing in great pain my desire for medium format camera, and I'm quite fond of the Makina 670. What are your thoughts on this camera? Thank you, and keep up the good work, Jorge, or George, or George. If you're
that is some serious gas right
there.
there.
Yeah, it's some serious gas. Yeah,
that's interesting as well. In particular, about using the Noct 58 1.2 is a heavily used lens.
Why, that lens is awesome.
Well, because it's an interest. I mean, I don't know a great deal about this lens, but I know that there's people say that it was designed to be used at night,
and that's
particularly
true.
Low light. And that you just said that it's true, and perhaps it is. But that if that is the case, then that should also say, therefore, that if you're using it in the daytime, it's probably going to be a bit weaker.
No, what? No. Why would it suck in the daytime if it's particularly good at night? That makes no sense.
Because it's meant to be good at night.
No, but but it's like if you buy if you buy a 4-wheel drive car, right? Doesn't mean it sucks for driving on a date. Maybe it's a bad analogy, but I have had the chance to. Yeah. But I have had the chance to.
Let me explain.
Okay.
Because you do get, and this is definitely don't. This is not necessarily fact based. That I'm about to say now.
Really, Simon? Is it really not fact based?
It's coming out of your aperture.
Yeah. I do like to preface things if I'm not entirely certain about. What
I think you're at f1.2, but let's go.
Yeah, and there are different versions of the Aero Ektar lens, and some have yellow dots and some have blue dots on them, and the wisdom behind that is that some were used for daylight shooting and some for night time shooting. So yellow for day and blue for night, which sort of makes sense. And my thinking is, would there be something happening with the coatings of a lens that would make it more suitable for use at night as opposed to use in the daytime, and vice versa?
I don't know, but I've used I once sat down and someone handed me 3 different f1.2 lenses on a Sony, one of which was the Noct. The other 2 were the Minolta 58 1.2, I think, and I think the other one was a Noctilux. Sorry, not the 1.2 Noctilux. That would be absurd. It was the 0.95. But yeah, the 58 1.2 Nikkor, I tried it. I was like, oh, people say this is really good at night. I think that's BS. And I shot some portraits at night. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely stunning at night and in artificial light. So make of that what you will. It's a really nice lens.
I mean, he's got so much great stuff already. So don't blame us for your gas. You're like blowing wad balls on like awesome gear, man.
Yeah, if you want a crazy recommendation for your Nikons, given that you already have the Noct, I recommend the Nikkor 13mm f5.6.
What?
Yes. Do you guys not know about this lens?
No.
Maybe just Google it. It's insane. No, I saw one for sale locally, and I looked at the price tag, and I was like, is that mislabeled? And the shopkeeper was like, nope, that's the actual price. I was like, it was like £25,000. I was like, is that are you for real? Like, yep. Oh, Ken Rockwell calls it the holy grail of Nikkor lenses, so that's why you should buy it.
Oh,
no, I'm joking. I'm totally joking. That's pure. Yeah. But on the Makina 670, I don't know. What are your thoughts on this camera, guys? I have mixed feelings about it.
I've never used one, but I really want one.
All I gotta say is, if you want one, I have a Makina 670 and a Makina 67 at Central Camera on sale. So give me a call.
Now then, I may be making a mistake here. So I thought it might have been a typo by saying 670, and it's actually 67. So there is I now need to recuse myself because I don't know what a 670 is.
It's the Makina that you're thinking of, the one with the 82.8 Nikkor.
Oh, right.
I don't know why anybody would pay more for that one than the previous model, other than it's just because they can. I mean, it's they're really not any different functionally. They're really not. I mean, it just looks a little bit different, and it's going to be way harder to find than the 6.7.
Okay, I'm just found them now, and I prefer the 6.7.
Yeah, I actually do too. For just purely looks wise, I think the 670 is kind of gaudy. To be honest,
the 6.7 is based on that wacky Agfa point and shoot, right?
Yeah, I mean they're both the same shape. Mm-hmm. It's just the styling is different. And I suppose they might have, I don't know, they might have tweaked some. Oh, I know. The strap lugs are swivel on the 670. And I know this because literally I have these two cameras side by side on the shelf, and I've played with them both. And I mean, other than just to say you've got a 670, I don't know why you would spend extra money on it.
Right. So So you didn't find that the ribbed nature of the 670
it was ribbed for my pleasure, but I'm just as pleasured by the smooth body of the 6.7.
Yeah.
So the thing that's always got me about that camera, it's wonderful, it's compact, the lens is great. I really, really hate the focusing mechanism. And every time I've tried one, I can't get around that little focusing dial. It doesn't feel good to me. I like to focus on the lens, or if it is a wheel, it's like the Contax Kiev cameras, where you can focus with a little wheel. The Makina one feels nicer, but I just don't like using my thumb to focus, or my right hand to focus.
Yeah, and you end up with your hand in a different place than you're used to having it on a camera for the most part. Right? I mean, I get that. It's definitely different.
Get a Bessa, the thing that we were talking about. What's it called?
Oh yeah.
The Voigtlander Bessa 3 thingy.
Yeah. I'd actually probably rather have the Bessa 3. Although I don't know. I mean, it's I guess it's 601. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you can afford to get it, just get it. You'll like it. You'll love it. It's really look. To me, if I was gonna be like backpacking or something, it would be like the perfect camera to take because it folds up flat. But so does the Voigtlander. So
yeah, exactly. So does any folder, really.
Yeah. So does any folder, right? Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I would in that format. It's 6x7, so maybe not in that format. But as far as folding rangefinders go, the one that I would have the most gas for is the Agfa Super Isolette. I think those things are so nice.
Yeah.
Can I make Jorge one serious recommendation for a Nikon lens and not the 13mm joke that I was talking about earlier? Because I don't think he has anything in this focal length. My favorite Nikon lens that I don't own is the Voigtlander 40mm f2 Ultra.
Oh yeah, it's nice.
That lens feels so good. It's nuts. It's a pancake. It's tiny. Yeah, optically it's great.
That is a cool lens. Yeah,
comes with this weird little close-up filter thingy. But man, that lens feels wonderful.
And I'm gonna say that you should forget the fancy stuff, and you should get an old as you possibly can 50mm f2, because to me, that is the only Nikon lens that I own, the only one. And I don't own a Nikon, so I put it on other things, but I really like that lens. It's got that we were talking about, that 50 f2 magic. It's got it. It's totally got it. So I that's the lens I would suggest to get, because it's going to cost you literally like $50. Mm-hmm. And you to me, get it and shoot it and compare it to your Noct at f2 and tell us what you think. Write us back. This is your assignment, Jorge. You have to go. Got to go buy a Nick. It's the Nikkor H, right? The 50 millimeter f2. Yep. Go get one of those for $50, cheapo, and shoot it and shoot your Noct and tell us what you think of both of them at f2. That's what I want to know.
And if you get the Voigtlander 40 f2, it's just over $200. It's going to transform your Nikons because they're going to be more portable than ever. 40 millimeters is perfect. And I mean, Simon, you've tried that lens too, right? It was super lovely. Nice.
Everything you said about it, I completely agree. And it was just a really nicely made camera, not lens, very compact. Yeah, good tactile feel to it, and you've got that novelty factor of that screw in close focus thing, which I had in at one point, and I wondered why I couldn't get infinity, because I thought it broke. But there you go.
I'm going to make one more suggestion along the same lines of what we've been talking about. So they make Voigtlander also makes a 15 millimeter super wide heliar for Nikon, and they make a super cool. It's what is it? A viewfinder attachment for the top of the camera to take the viewfinder. And it's custom. And if you want to go blow some money, totally unnecessary, on just cool stuff for Nikon, to me, this would be at the top of the list. And you'll just have to, I will find a link for it. But it's a special viewfinder that goes with the 15 millimeter that'll go on your Nikon. And there you go. You need one of those.
I've never heard of that. That sounds cool.
Yeah, wait till you see a picture of it. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, I'll just add in there, because he's also got the Olympus as well, and I would say just about any f2 Olympus lens, well worth it.
Yeah, they're so good. All the Olympus f2s are great. Okay, I'm making a note here to go find that Nikon, to find that picture. Anyway, okay, moving on. Sunlight's wasting. We got to get through this shit. Jervis Pendleton, subject, Johnny's Instagram. Hi, everyone. Johnny, it's 2020. Time to respond to the Instagram followers. Love you guys. Okay, moving along. Ian Fleming, Petri Blue Scope.
There's no answer to that one. Are you? Is this going to be your New Year's resolution for 2021? Then is it to do people follow on Instagram?
I was dangerously close to posting some panos to Instagram the other week out of the FT2. So that'll happen sooner rather than later. I will be posting to Instagram because I've now officially passed the 1 year mark of not posting anything to Instagram. So now that I've made my 1 year, hit my 1 year mark, I can now say I went a year without posting to Instagram. So now I can do it again. So it's coming.
I was going to say for everybody, is there going to be some kind of quota system though, that people need to get the names down sooner rather than later, otherwise they're not going to get in or anything like that? So have you worked out who you're letting in? Because you must have about 600 people want to follow you.
I don't know. It's going to happen all at once. It's this is part of the reason I got off of Instagram, was all the spam followers. Not that the people who request, it's when I had it not locked down and you get people auto following you, that kind of thing. Then my Instagram feed was full of bodybuilders, people who make crafts, and booty. And I don't want any of that. I'm sorry. I don't need any of that in my Instagram feed when I'm trying to look at photos. So that's why I'd stopped using Instagram. So Instagram, because you're assholes and you don't give people, because you're obviously it's owned by Facebook, and because you guys are assholes and don't give people easy tools to control that sort of thing, screw you guys. So that's why I haven't used it for a year. So not my circus, not my monkeys. Okay. Anyway. Moving right along.
And I was going to say, and you can follow Johnny on Instagram at System Photography.
No, because you know what? Now I'm so pissed off again. I'm not going to be on there for another year. So I'll see you in 2021, folks. All right. Ian Fleming writes a subject, Petri Blue Scope.
Have we just missed one?
I don't think so.
Yeah, you skipped another short one.
James Thorpe.
Did I miss James? You know what? I'm looking at. I have Jervis Pendleton's email twice in here, and I think I may have missed James Thorpe's email. So I'm gonna quickly just go over to my email, and I'm gonna open it up. Jim Thorpe. Hold on one second. Gmail opening. Oh my God! Come on.
Almost as short as the previous one.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Is it gonna be about Instagram? Because if it is, I'm just gonna get more pissed off.
Simon could have read it out by now.
Yeah, even Simon could have read it.
Or you, for that matter, Perry.
That's true. It is addressed to me.
Classic.
Okay, why don't I just read it?
Read it, Perry.
All right. This is from James Thorpe. He says, "Hey, classic chaps. Perry recently mentioned his positive experience with Certo 6. I've also bought a few cameras from that guy, Jurgen, and they've always been top-notch. And wanted to let you know I can also personally vouch for Petrakla.com in the Netherlands. Peter's also a really solid seller of CLA'd classics. Ghastly yours, James Thorpe."
Good
so
info.
Thanks for that tip. Jurgen's stuff is fantastic. And so if this guy's stuff is just as good, then we should check it out.
Awesome. All right. Very good.
Excellent.
Okay. Moving right along to Ian Fleming, subject Petri Blue Scope. Dear Simon, Johnny, Perry, I accept your challenge on my Petri, and I will report once it's dead. Interestingly, it came with a homemade tool to unscrew the winder, plus other homemade fixin' bits. I'm happy to facilitate a photo walk and a train ride. Keep up the good work, Ian. Proper train, Fleming. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, it sounds like somebody's already made some workarounds to get that camera in working order. So I like customized cameras that have had workarounds made to them.
And I just thinking, Ian, if you can get that train to come to Oxford on Saturday next week, we've got that photo walk with Graham of the Sunny 16 podcast and Nasser Hussain and lots of people. So that's on the That's the 8th of February. So it's coming up. So see if you can get that line, the train off your line in the Botanical Gardens and onto the main line and head up to Oxford.
That's awesome. All right, moving along. From Roadrunner. I think this person actually gives their name, and we'll read it at the end, but it just says from Roadrunner. So I'm just going to go with Roadrunner. Maybe. Subject, KMZ FT2. Hi, Classic Lenses team. Your 2019 year-end episode gave me some I almost said paranormal gas, but it's panorama gas. Paranormal gas would be kind of interesting. Based on Johnny's enthusiasm, I picked up a KMZ FT2, you bastard. Don't go buy these camera, people, until I get another one. So just stop. I'm already enamored with it. I've shot a few rolls of film, and the results turned out much better than I expected. To be fair, I was expecting the worst because it looks and handles nothing like any other camera. It also requires a special film respooling and loading process and has a risk of light leaks. I'm excited thinking of the unique shot opportunities. My question is for Johnny, obviously. Do you have a good technique for removing the spools from the camera? They fit snugly. And there doesn't seem to be any easy method for grasping them and pulling them out. I've been pinching the fringe of, I like to pinch the fringe too. I've been pinching the fringe of the light blocking material. Sorry. Sorry. God, I've been thinking about fringe pinching all weekend. That's the problem. Light blocking and of the light blocking spool. This seems like a sketchy technique that will eventually result in tearing the material away from the spool. If I'm missing something, I'm hoping you have a more robust method. Oh, there's so many words in this paragraph that just make me want to laugh. So I know exactly what you're talking about because I also pinched the fringe on my spools in my camera and have pulled little bits of them off. So I've done this myself. I actually... Stop it, Perry, you're the worst. So I actually I think I've come up with a technique for this because I have experienced the same thing, and those little bastards are in there. They do not want to come out. I was even thinking of like putting a little like piece of tape on there so I could grasp the tape to pull them out, but that's going to cause problems. So what I think I have come to the understanding of is if you take the cartridges, so that the point at the front, right where the fringe is, if you turn the cartridge like about 45 degrees, so that front fringy part is all the way at the edge of the camera. This is really hard to explain, you guys. But anyway, if you turn the cartridges so that they're turning from facing to the back to facing out to the sides, I think that the cartridges more or less just fall right out. I think they come out easier anyway. They're looser because these things they're really hard to get out. The other method obviously would be bang that sumbitch really hard on the table and they'll probably just fly out. This camera is not built like a camera. It is built like a handgun. And if anybody's ever handled a handgun, you will know what I'm talking about because it's very uncamera. It's all like springs and screws and turns, and it's very strange and slides. It handles very oddly. So I think that's the trick, is you have to turn the cartridges to the side and then give it a good firm whack, and I think they'll pretty much come right out. So I think that's a trick. I think Roadrunner Steve, I think that's the trick.
I think there's something potentially really satisfying in that a camera that you finished it and you smack it on the desk and the film comes out. I almost want to be able to do that with a camera.
It reminds. I mean, I've never handled a Tokarev, but they're very similar to like a Colt, a 45. And there's a lot of slamming involved with 45s too. I mean, putting the magazine in, you have to slam it in, and things slide out, and you push buttons and things fall. I mean, to me, that's why it reminds me so much of a handgun. There's all the metal on metal sliding and everything. It's just a weird camera. It's like a camera that's just not a camera, which is what I like about it too. So anyway, I think that's the trick, but there's a lot of like little tricks with this camera. It's deceptive because it's so simple, but I'm finding there's lots of like little tricks with this camera to make it function better. Like the one that I've now discovered is that when you cock the lens, it doesn't always want to lock, and then you end up with the lens suddenly swinging, and then basically making an exposure, thus ruining a frame. But what I found is that if you cock this lens, I turn the lever very slowly so I can actually hear it latch in securely. So go real slow when you're cocking it. And then also, I know this sounds goofy, but I hold the camera vertically when I'm cocking it, and I think for whatever reason the latch mechanism engages better when the camera is held vertically. So there, 2 more tips. Okay,
just make you wonder how you find that kind of thing out.
Trial and error. Trial and error. It's a weird camera. It's just a weird camera.
Okay, well, thanks for your emails this week.
Thanks very much.
As ever, we get some good emails, don't we?
Don't we? Yeah. So is this episode, what did you say about rainbows, Simon? You said...
rainbows are funny things.
Rainbows are funny things and pinching the fringe. All right. Very good.
Pinching the fringe of funny rainbows.
Pinching. There we go. See you, folks. Good night. That was it. Pinching the fringe of funny rainbows.
And I think that's probably a good time to start to wind things up as well. Seeing it's sunny in Chicago. So, Perry, have you got any other things you want to get off your chest while we're here?
Nope.
Johnny?
What was it again? Pinching the fringe of sunny rainbows?
Rainbows are funny things.
Pinching the fringe of funny rainbows.
Oh, that was it. Funny rainbows. That was it.
Okay. I'm just typing it.
I should clarify for Jorge that I think the version of the Voigtlander 40mm f2 is the SL, the pancake, not the newest one. I think is not as pancakey and not as sexy. You want the one with the weird close-up filter.
Is it more like a scone?
Not the kind of scones that I eat, but sort of. Why you said scone and not scone?
Yeah, that's right. I do.
What the hell?
Isn't that how it's supposed to be said?
Well, there's a debate that rages on that one. I'm definitely a scone person, but I think the Queen would have a scone.
Yeah, what kind of Brit are you?
I'm almost in the north.
Is it a Welshie thing versus a northern thing?
No, they have Welsh cakes over there.
Okay.
Which are different again. Very nice, by the way. But there you go.
You're going to be saying tomato and aluminum soon. This is what Brexit gets you.
Nikon.
Yeah, it all depends on the trade deal, doesn't it? So.
There you go. You won't have any choice. When you become the 51st state and you get renamed, you get renamed Trumplandia in honor of becoming the 51st state.
Right. Okay. Well, let's do coffee. Thank you very much for those people that are supporters. For the bills for Podbean is about to pop up on us. So that's thank you very much for your support there, and those people that have done so. We've had a few this week. So Nigel Cliff was the first one on the list here, and he also says. Ethan was a great listen. Yes, he was. So it was great to listen to on a long journey and made it less painful. I have a confession, though. I voted for the Negative Positives podcast in the Sunny Awards.
That's cool. Everyone did.
Yeah, well,
I did.
Yeah, that's good. That's a fair point, actually. Well, some people voted for us, became second. So but yeah, you've paid us off on that one, so we won't hold it against you, Nigel. Then we've got Gary Clennon, and it says, "Please accept only if Simon promises never to mention the word Sony again." Just kidding, and keep up the good works. Well, yeah, I've already gone wrong on that one. I really tried to not say Sony today when I was talking about using a digital camera, and I was thinking, I've got to do it. But Johnny's the big Sony fan in this on this podcast anyway. Yeah. He's many times has basically told us that it's the best camera ever. That's Absolutely. Right, isn't it, Johnny?
Oh, I always say that. You know me.
Yeah.
So Gary Clennon goes by Calgary_street on Instagram, and he has recently threatened to block me on Instagram.
Why is that?
Because he was telling me, if only he could find a small M mount 35 1.4 other than the ZM or the Leica or the Voigtlander. And when I was like, yeah, it's too bad that those don't exist. And then a couple days later, I messaged him and I was like, wait, you forgot about the MS Optical Apple Qualia 35 1.4. And I gave him a little gas for that, and he was like, don't send me any more messages. You're blocked now.
All right. Okay. Next one is Christopher J. May.
Yeah.
And he's saying there, it's been a while since I contributed here. My apologies, gents. We don't need to apologise. Life was busy, and I had to catch up with the LFPP first. That's a large format photography podcast. Well done, Christopher. But working on catching up on here as well. So thank you very much, Christopher. And this next one is from Negative Positives.
What?
Yeah, I don't know if this is like being magnanimous in victory over us. I don't know, but he says here, no idea why I'm paying you money, but when you made me drink my Lort, I'm donating to prove that I lived after it. So it's a proof of life donation. So thank you, Mike.
I think Mike is still just not. He's just still has mixed feelings about the fact that he's even doing the coffee thing, and maybe he's just going to give it all away and just pass it along.
But that could be right. And this gives us a dilemma now, because when Sunny 16 when they started to take coffee donations, I sent them a donation, and I was thinking, well, perhaps you might send it back. And so I'm now thinking, well, what do I do now? Do I send this one back? Is it rude? Is it so? So there you go. So thank you very much, Mike. We'll try to work out that moral dilemma. And then the final one, which came in today, which is a regular donation from Lawrence Dunn. Thank you very much, Lawrence. Really appreciate it. So
thanks, everybody.
That's
Thank
it.
you.
So that's pretty much it. So Perry, outside of the show, how can people keep up with you?
Wait, we're not going to do shout-outs? I thought Johnny had a ton.
Did he? Oh, okay.
I have one, which I just could do it real quick, because you just mentioned him, Christopher J. May, who I saw on, I guess it was Saturday, and he brought in his really beautiful Corona 8x10 camera.
Corona.
Yeah.
Get it away.
Yeah.
Very topical.
Yeah. So he brought it in, and we were looking for some bits and pieces for it, but beautiful camera. I mean, really beautiful camera. And he picked up a Vintessa with the 50 millimeter Ultron, a very well used but very well functional. As we were talking about earlier, sometimes the most used looking cameras are the best because they've been serving their owners well for a long time. So he picked up a very, very well used and well loved Vintessa with the 50 millimeter f2 Ultron. So enjoy that, and it was good to see you and your wife, and hopefully we'll see you guys again soon.
Excellent. So back over to Perry.
Shout outs, yes.
Shout outs as well.
Sorry, I got a couple of really quick ones. Yeah. No worries. I'll be fast. Just a quick shout out, first of all, to Graham and Aid of Sunny 16 and Rachel for saying hi before we started recording, for having me on. That was a fun chat at 5 a.m. Hong Kong time. And also a quick shout out to my girlfriend for shooting with me again this week. She's really getting into this now and pushing me to shoot more. So since I mentioned her getting featured on Best Vintage Lens already, I guess now is a good time to actually share her Instagram handle. She's quite a private person, so don't go spamming her with messages going like, I know who you are. But if you want to follow her on Instagram and see some really, really damn good street photography, she is at what's her handle? SLAU317 on Instagram, and most of her shots are with a 35 Summicron version 4.
Very nice, and congratulations.
Yeah, yes. Absolutely. Okay, so dare I say again, how can people follow you?
Oh,
Perry G on Instagram. Just go there for now.
And how about you, Johnny?
You can find me at Central Camera Company in Chicago every day but Sunday and Monday.
Okay, and any places where we might be on Facebook?
Yes, we are, of course, on Facebook. Visit the Facebook group for the Classic Lenses Podcast. Also visit the website for Classic Lenses Podcast, where you can find all of the podcasts and all of the detailed notes for each episode with links, et cetera, et cetera. And also over on Instagram, visit our Instagram partner, Best Vintage Lens. Tag your photos with Best Vintage Lens for a chance to be featured, as we have proven today can happen to people right here that we know, right?
Yeah.
So make sure to do that. And did we mention YouTube? YouTube, you can watch the video simulcast of the podcast over on YouTube.
It seems to be working again as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
It's actually back up again, so that's good news.
All right. So go watch the podcast over on YouTube. What else is there? Is there something else?
Email?
Oh, yeah. Send us an email, which we've again proven that we do actually read. Yeah. So emails to classiclensespodcast@gmail.com, please, and we will read them.
Excellent. And
especially if they talk about Fringe.
Yes. Well, it's going to be fringing next, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Purple fringing. Ugh.
I was just going to say purple fringing.
Well, I was regretting that as soon as I said it. And just as a point about our Facebook group, if you do join it, you will be faced with a question.
Oh, yeah.
And it's purely there because we only want people that are likely to engage in the group. That's the only reason there. It's not a difficult question to answer, yet so many people we cannot manage it.
We have like 50 requests to join, right? Without the question answered.
Yeah, and if you just write okay, we will not accept you.
Yeah, we're actually kind of jerks about this. So you should just do it because you're, if you want to be in the group, you just have to do the thing.
Because this is one of the things about Facebook groups. This is absolutely the case. It's not about size.
Yeah.
Small engaged groups are far better than humongous groups
which only happens with Facebook groups, but there it is.
Yeah. So we like it that way, and we like the fact that we've got a very engaged group of people in that, and that's simply because we've only let people in that have engaged with us in some shape or form.
Right.
So so if you want to come along, and we want you in there, we're not trying to make it so you can't come in. We want you to come in, but do answer the question in some way.
Yes, please.
That'll be good.
We like our Facebook groups like we like our fringes, small and engaged.
Really? I like the big ones.
Well, anyway, there you go. Well, what else was there? Okay, so for me, if you want to come along on a photo walk in Oxford, it's 11 o'clock. Somewhere in Oxford is 11 o'clock, which has actually been organised by the Sunday 16 podcast. Actually, they've got two photo walks, but there's another one on the south coast as well. But I'm going to the one with Graham, which will be in Oxford on the 8th, 11 o'clock. Somewhere. If you want more details on that, if you just go to photowalk.me and you'll be able to find the details of that walk. So there's two walks on that day, but this is the one that's marked down as Sunday 16, and you don't have to turn up with an analog camera for that either, because Graham has said, if you just want to come along. So those of you that use classic lenses on digital, you're going to be very, very welcome at that walk. So no excuses not to come along.
So, Graham did say at the end of the last episode that he's got way too many people signed up already. So by advertising it.
Well, there you go. More the merrier. And I'm sure there was something else I wanted to say. Oh, that was the other thing. I've now, I'm just about to double the range of 3D printed lens caps.
Wow.
So
cool.
If you head over to my eBay page, or if you just search for Exacta lens caps, you will see my exquisite 3D printed lens caps. And I'm just about to add to them Penticon 6 lens caps, because I'm just trying to work my way through the harder to get hold of lens caps that there are out there that haven't been produced in their gazillions in China, because it doesn't really make sense to do the tooling for a kind of lens cap that probably is only about 300 people in the world want.
Right.
So I'm 3D printing them instead. So if you go to the links, you'll find my link for my eBay shop in the show notes. But also, if you just search for Exacta lens cap, then you should find it. In fact, I should make that available to the States as well, but it's just a postage issue there, of course. But there you go. But if that's an option, then it's there. Then it's up to you if you want to take that. So. And that's another thing. If you buy anything from my eBay shop and you're listening to this podcast, just say something like, I listen to the show, or send me a Tunnux caramel, because as long as I can fit it in there without increasing the price of the postage, I will do. So send me a note and I'll hopefully send you a Tunnux caramel bar as well, which has got to be worth buying from me. Or whatever the object is, because you get the Tunnux for free. So that's it. You can find me on Twitter as Simon4. Yeah, that's it, Simon4. That's Simon with FOR. I'm on Instagram as Simon Forster Photographic. We all hang out in the Classic Lenses podcast Facebook group. And that's pretty much it for this week. So I hope you've enjoyed this week's show. And if you can, be like KARL.